and your recommendation,
hindi-
the DAR model.
Hindi ko alam yung sagot, pero may nakasagot. Yun ang gusto kong sabihin.
Yes.
It's a whole of government approach, sabi ng chairman. Pa-advise tayo rin sa ibang ahensya ng gobyerno na naayos nila yung problema nilang ganyan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Your
Good
Honor.
luck to our anti-illegal drugs team and family. And I think Senator Tulfo will also question them. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Minority Leader. Majority Leader.
Yes, Mr. President, next to interpolate is Senator Rafi Tulfo. I move that he be recognized.
Senator Rafi Tulfo is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. I'd like to put it on record that I fully support the budget of the DBB and PDEA. However, I have some few clarificatory questions, which are very basic, and I'm sure it's very easy for the good sponsor to answer this, being a veteran law enforcement member. My first question is about doon sa tinatawag na drug watch list and order of battle. Paano po nailalagay sa listahan ang isang tao doon?
Your Honor, it started from the barangay level. The information was collected from the barangay level, then binabalidate up to the municipal level, provincial level, regional level, hanggang sa nabuo yung watch list at the national level, Your Honor.
Okay. So meron ho bang pagkakaiba sa listahan ng mga drug user versus drug pushers?
Yes, Your Honor, may separate list po yan, yung mga users at saka yung pushers.
Okay.
But sometimes, nakakategorize sila. Pero sometimes, may isang tao na he's a user at the same time, a pusher. So, kasama siya sa dalawang listahan doon. User na, pusher pa.
At meron din po ang PDEA listahan ng mga supplier at manufacturers.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. The reason why I asked that, Mr. President, the good sponsor, years ago, ilan ng mga napunta sa aking mga complainants na nailagay ang pangalan nila sa drugs watch list samantalang malinis naman sila. So ang duda nila, meron silang kapitbahay o merong galit sa kanila na may connection sa barangay, sa law enforcement, kaya inilagay ang pangalan nila doon. In some cases, in the past, may napapatay pa dahil dyan. So paano po maiwasan natin na mangyari yan ulit?
Yeah, Your Honor, if kung nangyayari daw yan noon, right now, mahirapan na daw mangyari yan dahil all law enforcement agencies involved in anti-drug operations are strictly comparing notes at binabalidate nila. Noon, posibleng mangyari yan, pero ngayon, mahirap na daw. Dahil nga, ang validation process ay periodic at palaging ginagawa, Your Honor.
So halimbawa po, Mr. President, good sponsor, ang isang taong nagtatrabaho sa barangay at sabihin natin officials ng barangay at meron siyang galit na tao sa kanilang barangay. So ilalagay niya sa listahan yung isang taong yon, and then may connection siya sa PNP at i-validate yung sinabi nung taga-barangay na naglagay sa listahan ng kagalit niya. And so my question then is, what degree of proof ang kailangan para ma-ensure na yung ginagawa nitong barangay official na ito dahil galit lang siya sa isang tao ay hindi makakalusot at hindi dumating sa hindi kanais-nais, which is ma-raid yung bahay niya, mahuli siya, maplantahan siya, etc. Kasi in some cases, siguro alam niyo po ito, good sponsor, marami sa mga kababayan natin, especially yung mga mahirap, na na pagdidiskitahan, hinuhuli at alam naman natin wala sila talagang kasalanan at pinaplantahan?
We understand those unfortunate incidents, Your Honor, pero as of now, the PDEA Director General is giving us the assurance na mahirap na daw yung mangyari ngayon because the management of the watch list, this is identification and validation of individuals involved in the illegal drugs and formulation of PDEA, PNP certified BADAC, Barangay Anti-Drug Abuse Council's watch list. This is for the purpose of identifying individuals to be recommended for appropriate intervention programs such as treatment and rehabilitation of persons who use drugs and reformation program for qualified posers. Posibleng mangyari yan talaga, Your Honor, kung may mga tao na may masamang intensyon na magbigay ng wrong information doon sa PNP or sa PDEA para yung kalaban ba niya sa negosyo, kalaban ba niya sa politika, or na gusto niyang maisama sa listahan, posible yan, makarating yan doon, pero with the very stringent validation process being conducted by the agencies, PDEA, PNP, local government units, and the barangay and the municipal drug abuse councils, baka mahirap na yan mangyari ngayon, Your Honor.
So, thank you, good sponsor, Mr. President. So, yung listahan ng PDEA at ng PNP pagdating sa drug watch list or order of battle, magkapareho or in some ways magkaiba?
Yes, Your Honor. Magkaisa na po yung listahan dahil kinukonsolidate nila, nagko-coordinate sila palagi, yung NBI, PNP at PDEA, iniisa na yung listahan. And we are no longer using the term order of battle, Your Honor. Watch list na lang yung nakalagay doon sa
Drugs watch list na.
listahan.
Kasi in the past, sikat na sikat yung salitang order of battle.
Military term yan.
Pag nilagay ka doon sa listang order of battle, delikado ng buhay mo.
Yes,
It's either mapaplantahan ka at makukulong ka or sementeryo.
Yes, Your Honor.
So ang sa akin lang po kasi, gusto ko lang maiwasan na yung mga inosente, of course, galit po ako sa droga, tulad natin lahat dito, sana yung mga maliliit nating kababayan, yung mga talaga inosente, hindi mapagplantahan, mapagbintangan at makulong dahil sila ay napagdiskitahan lamang at sila ay nasa kulungan. And I'll tell you, it's a fact na napakaraming mga kababayan tayo dyan sa city jail na nag-aantay ng kaso nila ma-resolve na inosente, believe it or not. Napakarami yan, and you know that the good sponsor. Number one, pinantahan sila. Number two, wala silang pampiyansa. Number three, mahirap sila. Yun yung tatlo, kaya hanggang ngayon nabubulok sila sa city jail. So, having said that, sana maging careful ang ating mga taga-PDEA, law enforcement, sa pag-qualify ng isang taong whether he's a drug user, drug pusher, or not. Para naman masara po yung mga inosente doon sa mga talagang totoong mga pushers. Now, nagsusuot ho ba ng body-worn camera ang mga PDEA operatives tuwing sila po ay pupunta sa field? I mean, at 100% rate. Kasi sa PNP, sa 10 na gagawa ng operation sa field, yung isa salamat kung meron, tapos sira-sira pa yung camera at hindi pa umaandar. Sa PDEA, hindi ba ganon?
PDEA has a 100% body-worn camera to all its operatives during anti-drug operations, Your Honor.
100%, right?
100% complete.
Very good, excellent. Very nice to hear. Now, yung pong mga nakukolekta na...
Doon po nakalagay yung mga nakatambak yung mga ebidensya.
Okay. Gaano ka-secure po yung evidence room, kung tawagin if you will, na masiguro hindi po malulusutan yun, meaning wala pong mga loko-loko sa PDEA ang kukuha ng ebidensya doon, makakuha ng ilang droga doon para i-recycle tulad ng ginagawa ng ilang taga-PNP na nababalitaan natin?
Pwedeng recycle or pwedeng gamitin mismo, Your Honor.
pwedeng
yung
gamitin mismo.
Mga drug
Sponsor.
abuser na mga tao.
So how secured?
Security measures in safekeeping evidence. Installed the following for safety and added security. CCTV cameras inside the evidence room and its vicinity. Fire extinguishers with proper labels and instructions of use. Metal grills were installed around the facility. Double doors were metal instead of wood. The doors were secured with 3 sets of locks, which are in the custody of 3 authorized laboratory service key holders, such that the absence of a key holder makes access to the evidence room impossible. Biometrics will also be installed outside the evidence room to control access to the facility. So, napaka-secure na po yung kanilang evidence room, Your Honor. Dahil 3 may hawak ng susi. Kung hindi present yung 3, hindi ma-open yung evidence room. And so, chances are na yung 3, hindi yan magkakaisa na gumawa ng kalokohan. May mga, mga safety features na ginagawa kaya hindi sila magkakaisa.
Thank you, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor. Good sponsor. Now, pagdating po dun sa pagkukolekta ng mga ebidensya sa field o yung nakukuha ng mga ebidensya sa field, up to the point na yun po ay ilalagay doon sa storage room, ano pong mga procedure ang ino-observe para masiguro, for example, may nakuha silang 1 kilo sa field at pagdating po doon sa storage room, 1 kilo pa rin papasok na wala pong nangumisyon o nag-cut ng kalahating kilo along the way.
Your Honor, according to the PDEA, the chain of custody of evidence is strictly being observed by every operatives of PDEA, Your Honor.
Wala ho bang third party? Kasi kung mga PDEA, sila lang, pwede po magsabuatan yun. Dapat po may third
Your
party.
Honor,
Halimbawa, taga-media.
always during operations, we seek the presence of local government officials and members of the media as witness in the conduct of our operations as required by law. So sila yan mismo, yung mga taga-media, mag-iingay yan kapag meron silang naobserbahan na mga ginagawang hindi maganda, yung mga operatiba natin sa field, Your Honor. Lalong-lalo na yung mga sinatawag natin na savings. Mabubulabog yan dahil mayroong outsider coming from the media and coming from the local government o barangay na magbabantay doon sa ginagawa nila, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, good sponsor. Ang ibig ko rin kasi sabihin, the good sponsor, Mr. President, yung bang pag-transport ng ebidensya from point A, doon sa field, to point B, doon po sa storage room, na-observe ng hindi lamang ng mga taga-PDEA, kundi third party, alam mo, taga-media, na yung 1 kilo na na-collect sa field, dapat 1 kilo din ang pumasok at yun din po yung mismo, yung mga droga na yun ang talagang nakuha at exact na timbang pa rin. At same pa rin ang laman nung kung yun po ba yung mga sachet, yun po ba yung supot, etc. Kasi
Your
pwede
Honor,
magkaroon ng switching eh.
Yeah, mahirap talaga daw na pakialaman yung pag namarkahan na dahil the inventory is right there at the crime scene. Pag gawa ng inventory doon sa crime scene, namarkahan yan kung ilang pounds, ilang grams yan, pagkarga doon sa evidence van, papunta doon sa evidence room, ay sigurado yan na pagdating doon, the same pa rin. Kasi chine-check naman nung mag-receive na evidence custodian doon sa evidence room, kung anong nakalagay doon, kinikilo, tinitimbang niya uli doon pagdating, Your Honor. Kaya mahirapang galawin ng mga tao. Meron ding nagbibideo, mga pictures, kaya sinisiguro natin na hindi nila matamper yung evidence, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. Now, let's talk about destroying the drugs. Kapag natapos na po yung kaso sa korte, I would assume na yung mga drugs na yun ay kailangan i-destroy. Paano po yung destruction process na ginagawa?
The procedure of destruction, Your Honor, goes this way. First, we have to secure court order for the destruction from the court or written order from the Director General PDEA. If there is no case filed, if there is no case filed. Number two, take pictures of the evidence. Number three, reweigh the evidence. Number four, re-examine the evidence. Number five, take representative samples pursuant to the provisions of Board Regulations Number 1, Series of 2002. And number six, burn dangerous drugs using thermal method.
Okay. Yes, I understand. Now,
Yes.
doon po sa burning na proseso, sino-sino po ang present at nag-observe para masiguro na yung mga sinusunog ay yung pa rin po yung mga drugs na nanggaling doon sa storage na may court order na pwede na i-destroy?
Your Honor, the witnesses prescribed by law, accused or counsel for the accused, DOJ representative, media representative, elected public official, and civil society group cannot proceed to the destruction site at a short notice. Moreover, the said witnesses cannot proceed to the destruction activity on an almost daily basis. So, but still, pinagsisikapan na ito, pag lalong-lalo na yung destruction ng malakihan, Your Honor, nire-require talaga na yung presensya nito mga tao na ito.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. Ano pong ginagawa ng PDEA na para masiguro yung monitoring ng kanilang mga agent na hindi mapasok sa pagbebenta ng illegal na droga or mismong sila ay gumagamit na pala ng droga?
We have continuing counterintelligence efforts, Your Honor, meaning we are monitoring all our personnel as far as their daily activities is concerned. And yun naman sa paggamit ay nagkakaroon tayo ng mga random drug testing to our personnel from time to time para mahuli yung mga gumagamit. Lalong-lalo na yung mga suspected na tingin natin ay gumagamit na, we require them to undergo a drug test, Your Honor.
Thank you. So far, ilan na po yung mga PDEA agents ang natanggal sa trabaho, nasibak dahil sila po pala ay later on, they were found out to be drug users na?
Your Honor, our data here for internal cleansing data, calendar year 2011 up to October of 2024. Dismissed, we have 96 PDEA agents. Suspended, 164.
96 and 164. So ito po mga PDEA agents na nakitaan or napatunayan na sila pala ay later on ay gumagamit na ng droga.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So na-determine ng PDEA the reasons bakit nangyari ito. So ano po mga programa ginagawa ang PDEA na para ma-ensure na hindi na maulit to? Of course, sinabi nyo may mga random drug testing. Wala ho ba kayong ginagawang studies bakit ang isang PDEA agent ay nalululong sa droga at na-involved sa drug trafficking? At yung na mga follow-up question, yung mga po na-dismiss na binanggit nyo ng mga numbers, na-dismiss sila because are they drug users, drug pushers, o naging drug suppliers na rin?
Your Honor, bihira na po tayo nagkakaroon ng solid PDEA personnel na nag-operate, Your Honor. Most of the time, pag nag-operate ang PDEA, it is together with other law enforcement agency like PNP or NBI para mas maiwasan yung mga, kung may plano silang gumawa ng kalukuhan, Your Honor, may counter-checking among and between law enforcement agencies.
Thank you. Good sponsor. Last
Your
question.
Honor,
just,
last question?
Hindi, sa operatives.
Can I have 1 minute break, Your Honor? CR lang ko sandali.
1 minute break, yes, go ahead.
Mr. President, 1 minute break.
Session suspended for a minute. Senator Tulfo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. Out of the 95 dismissed, 164 suspended, 4 fined, 103 admonished from 2011 to 2024, ilan po doon ang dahil sa drugs?
Ilan? Lahat, Your Honor, yung 22, puro drug-related ito.
Laton, napakarami.
Positive sa drugs.
So, suspended, 164, positive sa drugs to. So, when you say suspended, so naibalik sila. And admonish, 103.
Pag drug-related, Your Honor, dismiss kagad, tanggal. Hindi pwede yung suspension. Itong mga suspension na ito, mga minor administrative
Okay.
violation siguro, Your Honor.
Okay. So,
Kaya
itong
sila
95
na-suspended.
ang dismissed.
Yes, Your
ang
Honor.
involved sa drug kasi 95. Okay, at hindi na po sila naibalik.
Hindi na ibalik.
Okay, great. Now let's talk about the reward system, Mr. President, and good sponsor. Paano po yung procedure sa pagbibigay ng reward? Ito ho ba, I would assume, ay sa mga tipster?
Your Honor, there are two kinds of reward system. One is for the tipster, yung informant, nagbigay na impormasyon na nag-positive yung operations. At pangalawa, yung mga lumen, yung mga operative mismo, AFP, PNP, PDEA, lahat binibigyan ng monetary reward, Your Honor.
Okay. Kaya ko po natanong yan, so paano po natin malaman na yung binigyan ng reward ay kapitbahay lang pala ng isang operative at siya naman talaga ang nagtrabaho kaya natumbok niya yung isang, say, drug den, and then after na matumbok niya, sabi niya, para kumita ko rito kasi kung idideklara niya siyang nakita, bibigyan siya ng medalya versus kung sabihin niya may tipster siya, magkakaroon pa siya ng pera. So ang gagawin niya, tatawag siya ng kapitbahay niya o kainuman niya, pre, total, tatakuban naman yung mukha mo eh. Papalabasin ko na lang ikaw ang tipster ko at mabibigyan ka ng milyones. So paano natin masiguro na hindi po nangyari yun sa PDEA?
Your Honor, merong board po na nag-deliberate dito sa mga bibigyan ng reward. Hindi lang po ito, ang board is not purely composed of PDEA officers, but merong taga-academ, merong taga-religious sector, may business sector. There are 4 sectors being represented here, Your Honor, aside from the law enforcement. Dalawa from the business daw, Your Honor. So sila po yung bibet ng nagkakandak ng vetting process doon sa mga tatanggap ng rewards, Your Honor. At kasama doon sa pag-vetting is to see to it na hindi ito hausyaw na tao, personality na ginamit lang ng pulis para ultimately yung reward mapupunta lang din sa pulis. Mga civilian po ito, Your Honor. Hindi po makalusot yung mga diskarte ng mga law enforcement na gano'n na scheme, Your Honor.
So ibig sabihin, from the very start na dinedevelop ng kanilang informante, yung isa pong pinaproject nilang say drug den, nakalista na po yung pangalan ng informante yon hanggang sa naging positive yung pag-raid, naging successful doon halimbawa sa drug den, saka ibibigay ang reward dun sa informante yon dahil siya yung nasa listahan from the get-go mula sa umpisa hanggang sa naging successful yung pagkahuli o pagka-raid ng isang drug den na pre-project.
Not necessarily, Your Honor, yung pangalan niya mismo makuha, no, malista. But from the very start, the fingerprint of that tipster is already being taken from him. Hanggang sa matapos, the same fingerprint pa rin yung ginagamit para pag-claim ng reward. Kasi there are instances wherein informants, yung tipster, ayaw nila mabulabog yung kanilang identity. So hanggang kuwan lang tayo, yung right thumb fingerprint, Your Honor.
Okay, hindi po ako namimalosa po, good sponsor, Mr. President.
Yeah, but the handler, of course, the handler, Your Honor, kilala niya yung tao, yung
Kaya nga
handler.
po.
Aside from the fingerprint, personal identity niya, kilala ng handler.
Kunyari, si Mario, isang PDEA agent, at meron po siya na-discovery na isang malaking bahay ng supplier, drugs. Alam niya na yon. Dahil, siyempre, sa kanyang experience and all. And then sabi niya, maging successful ang pag-raid ko rito. Ito ay magbubunga. So tatawag siya ng kanyang kapitbahay at ipapa-fingerprint niya para sabihin niya na kapag ito ay naging successful, ikaw ang sasabihin kong informante ko rito para kumita, kahati tayo sa kita. Yun po ibig sabihin. So paano natin maiwasan na mangyari po yun na talagang legit yung informante, talagang nagbigay siya ng tamang informasyon at hindi nakihati o nakikomisyon lamang yung PDEA agent.
Your Honor, during the deliberation of the rewards, ay mahuhuli po yan dahil sa interview portion. In-interview, although hindi pinapakita yung mukha, in-interview siya at malalaman ng mga members ng board kung ito ay drama-drama lamang or kuwan lang ito, scripted yung kanilang papel doon sa drug bust na yon, Your Honor. Malalaman po, Your Honor.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Good sponsor. Now, nais ko palang pasalamatan ng PDEA kung hindi ko pa kayo napasalamatan nung gumawa po ako ng surprise visit sa mga bus stations at sumama po ang ilang PDEA agents at nag-conduct ng drug testing at isa nga doon naging positive. Now, doon po sa drug testing, ano po yung nahuli doon? Is it shabu lamang? Kasama ba doon yung cocaine, marijuana?
Your Honor, yung test kit na ginamit doon sa request mo na testing ay 4. Shabu, marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, Your Honor. Pwede daw magiging 6 or 7 pero mas mahal. Mahal yung test kit na yon kung i-cover pa yung ibang types of drugs. Pero sa atin, yung pinaka-prevalent na drug abuse is by the use of shabu, marijuana, cocaine, and ecstasy, Your Honor.
Okay. Marijuana, cocaine, ecstasy, and shabu.
Yes, Your Honor. Isang kit lang yun, pero all those 4 substances can be tested and can be found out kapag ikaw ay positive doon.
Ecstasy,
Sa 4 yan.
kasama po yung ecstasy.
Kasama, Your Honor, ecstasy.
Paano po kung heroin addict po yung na-test?
Wala. Hindi kasama doon sa 4.
Hindi kasama.
Hindi kasama sa 4, Your Honor.
Paano kung PCP addict siya? Hindi rin kasama, lusot siya. Paano kung codeine and morphine addict siya? Lusot din siya.
Pinoprofile daw, Your Honor, yung ina-drug test natin. Halimbawa, malaman sa kanyang background na yung kanyang involvement ay nandoon sa ganitong klaseng drug. So, yun ang gagamitin po na test kit.
Mahirap po yung profiling. Kailangan po talaga yung science. So siguro po, sabi niyo may kamahalan, baka pwede tayo mag-invest na yung 7-panel coverage na doon sa lahat na nabanggit ko. Especially kung ito po ay mga taong may kaya sa buhay.
Yes, Your Honor. And even the follicle test that you've been advocating, Your Honor. Is,
Yung hair follicle test,
hair
yes.
follicle test is
Hanapan po natin ng budget yan na sana po magkaroon tayo ng
ay
ganung
still being
technology.
developed, Your Honor. Development of hair follicle drug testing, 13 million. So they developed ito, Your Honor.
Billion o million?
Million. 13 million.
Mura
pesos.
lang.
Mura lang, Your Honor.
Sige po.
Development stage ba, Your Honor? Hindi pa natin alam. Baka later may additional na gasto pa ito.
With the indulgence of the Senator Tulfo, is there any private hair follicle center here in Philippines?
Right now, Your Honor, we have the high precision diagnostic laboratory, pero pag hair follicle testing daw, Your Honor, dinadala pa sa abroad. Doon pa tinitest yung sample.
So you will know the results by how many weeks or how many months?
Average 2 weeks daw, Your Honor, yung hair follicle test.
Doon sa private.
Doon sa private.
Alright. So wala pa tayo sa sa
Sir?
government agency, wala tayong we do not have any hair follicle testing center.
Right now, Your Honor, for the information of the body, wala pang na-accredit ang DOH ng hair follicle testing center o laboratory dito sa Pilipinas.
Alright.
So wala pa. Magiging first pa itong dinedevelop ng PDEA pag ito ay naging successful.
Thank you. Senator Tulfo, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now, good sponsor, dumako tayo dun sa mga dredging vessels. During my last hearing sa Public Services, tinanong ko po yung DOTR and even the Bureau of Immigration and Coast Guard, pag may dumating na foreign vessels na gagawa ng dredging dito, sometimes from China, tinanong ko sila kung anong klaseng inspection ang ginagawa nila na para masiguro na walang droga may papasok. So, sila daw ay umaakyat doon at gumagamit ng K9. And then in-inspection po yung maleta. Wala ho bang presence ang PDEA doon para kapag halimbawa may naamoy yung aso na kahina-hina lang, suspected drugs, agad-agad ang PDEA ang gagawa ng confirmation because they're the agency na may capability makapagsabi na kung drugs ba yun o hindi. Hindi yung Coast Guard.
Right now, Your Honor, wala daw talaga. Wala silang presensya doon sa nagbo-board sa vessel na nag-inspection. Purely custom.
Wala ho ba kayong balak na makipag-MOA sa DOTR para ma-involve po kayo sa pag-aakyat sa mga barko na gagawa ng dredging dito? And these vessels came from countries na suspected source of drugs coming to our country.
We will coordinate, Your Honor. Sa ngayon, wala talaga. So, but we are interested on that subject and we will coordinate with the OTR.
On a weekly basis kasi po, maraming dumarating dito ng mga vessels from other countries to do dredging. At malalaking barko po ito at marami po mga crew dito. So pwede pong isiksik yung mga supot-supot o sako-sakong drugs kung saan-saan yan, sa engine, sa ilalim ng kama, o what have you. So kung may kasamang PDEA at Coast Guard, magsani puwersa, masiguro natin 99% na pumapasok ay walang drogang karga, hindi makakalusot yung droga papasok ng bata.
Yes, Your Honor, it's very possible to happen, but right now we are planning to coordinate with kung anong agency yung nagko-control ng mga dredging vessels na yan para makasama ang PDEA sa boarding party to conduct the inspection.
Okay. Last na lamang po,
Yes.
Mr. President, good sponsor. May presence po ba ang PDEA sa Bureau of Customs compound?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ano po yung ginagawa ng PDEA doon sa Bureau of Customs? Ano po yung kanilang mga duties and responsibilities sa loob po ng Customs compound?
Your Honor, the presence of PDEA can be observed in the airport and the NAIA airport and the MICP. Kasama po sila doon sa interdiction team with the PNP, Bureau of Customs, NICA, and PDEA. Aviation Security of the PNP, Your Honor, kasama po sila doon sa interdiction team para
Yung dadaan sa yellow lane,
sales na dumarating.
okay. Kasi sa Bureau of Customs, Your Honor, may tinatawag na X-ray. Okay. Yung dadaan sa yellow lane and red lane, yun yung nafa-flag down na possible may problema. Especially kung ito ay galing sa mga bansa, itong container na ito, na hotbed ng drugs. So, dapat, ibig sabihin, nandun yung PDEA na randomly magbukas ng mga container at gumamit ng K9 para amuyin yung mga kargamentong yun. Yun po ba yung ginagawa na ng PDEA? At kapag ginagawa, bakit po nakalusot yung yung magnetic container na kilo-kilo, daan-daang kilong shabu? Meron.
Your Honor, pagdating kasi dyan daw sa yung portion na yan, it's a purely customs area and sila po ang nasusunod dyan. The only thing that PDEA can do is to be there once their presence is requested by the customs. Hindi po sila na on their own papasok doon sa custom zone at maghahanap randomly ng target, Your Honor. Kailangan talagang dadaan pa sila sa customs authorities for coordination purposes.
Exactly. So, wala bang balak ang PDEA na makipag-MOA sa Department of Finance, the DBB and the Department of Finance, kasi yung Customs is under Department of Finance, para maobliga yung mga taga-Bureau of Customs, payagan po yung mga taga-PDEA na magkaroon ng presence sa loob ng compound nila for the purpose of looking out for drugs na possible na na-smuggle papasok ng bansa.
We will try to coordinate with the Department of Finance, Your Honor. If it is feasible, we will try, Your Honor. Maganda po talaga yan. Maganda po talaga yan. Kailangan talaga yung proactive approach pagdating dyan. Hindi yung nakatambay nga ang PDEA doon sa loob ng MICP or sa loob ng NAIA, pero maghihintay lang kung kailan itatap yung services nila by the Bureau of Customs. Dapat on their own sana, kung pwede, meron silang information na narinig, na natanggap, na itong particular container ba na ito, posible itong may laman, dapat on their own, kaya na nila kagad umaksyon. Pero as said, Your Honor, we have to go through the customs authorities. So, yung suggestion mo, Your Honor, is being considered seriously by PDEA.
Thank you. Last naman talaga, sponsor. 41.3% of first-time drug users were between ages 15 and 19. 1 in 3 students in the 12th grade experienced using marijuana. Alam mo ba ito ng PDEA? At kung alam ng PDEA ito, ano pong ginagawa ng PDEA at meron ba kayong mga programa para ma-address ito? Thank you.
Your Honor, that data came from DDB, and the DDB is strengthening the preventive education, advocacy, civic awareness by strengthening the drug education program in the schools. And the establishment of special drug education centers at the community level
Thank you, Mr.
for
President.
out-of-school youth.
Thank you, Mr. President, the good sponsor. Thank you very much.
Thank
Padilla.
you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Majority Leader.
With that, Mr. President, there being no other reservation for interpellation, I move that the budgets of the following: the Dangerous Dogs Board, the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency be deemed submitted for the body's consideration. So move, Mr. President.
Is there any objection? There being none, motion is hereby approved.
Meeting suspension, Mr. President.
Session suspended.
Picture.
Mr. President, I move that we consider the budgets of the following state universities and colleges and the Commission on Higher Education, and recognize the sponsor and chairperson of the Subcommittee D of the Committee on Finance, Senator Pia Cayetano, for her opening statement, and later to interpellate the Honorable Senator Sherwin Gatchalian. I
Sir-
move that they be recognized.
Sir, objection, there being none, motion is approved.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I am ready to sponsor the budget of the following: Commission on Higher Education with a total new appropriation of 60,247,899,000 pesos. The state universities and colleges with a total new appropriation of 117,989,930,000 pesos. And the University of the Philippines system with a total new appropriation of 24,262,233,000 pesos. Mr. President, I would just like to express to share a few observations on the higher education challenges. Survey shows that one of the primary reasons why students drop out of college is because of financial difficulties. Unfortunately, as it stands, it is going to be even more difficult for college students to graduate because under the tertiary education subsidy, we used to give 60,000 pesos per academic year for private higher education institution students and 40,000 for those enrolling in the public higher education system. But beginning academic year 2024 to 2025, the UNIFAS board has limited it to 20,000 pesos per year for both public and private higher education institutions. This is because of the number of applicants they have, and the idea is to spread it out. But, Mr. President, with the higher cost of living, our fear is that more of them will not be able to graduate. The next item I'd like to point out is the quality of education and job mismatch. 10 years ago, around 41% of college-age students were enrolled in higher education institutions. Now it is 47.49%, almost 50% of college-age students are enrolled in higher education. But the question we must ask ourselves, will this result in a well-educated, well-matched set of graduates? Based on news report, licensure exams for teachers, dentists, accountants, and more, even the bar exams actually continue to have low passing rates. Meanwhile, a study by the Philippine Institute for Development Studies conducted in 2022 showed that 40% of Filipinos are overqualified for their job. That said, our investment in higher education infrastructure, state-of-the-art facilities, cutting-edge technology, and ample resources create an environment that facilitates effective learning, teaching, and research. This also applies to our investments in our teachers, in our professors, for them to improve their own learnings and their teaching standards. On this note, we'd like to thank our chairperson, Senator Grace Poe, for accepting our amendments to fund futures thinking research programs of SUCs, increase capacity of medical SUCs, increase capacity of allied health and nursing programs of SUCs, dormitories, and upgrading and completion of facilities, learning spaces, and laboratories. This all represents our collective commitment to sustain and strengthen the accessibility, quality, and resilience of higher education across the nation. We remain focused on investing in projects and programs that ensure intergenerational equity while equipping our institutions to address future challenges. On that note, Mr. President, we are ready to accept questions from our colleagues. Thank you.
Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, good sponsor, Senator Pia Cayetano. And my greetings to the Commissioner of CHED, headed by the Chairperson, Popoy De Vera, and the rest of the commissioners. Let me also greet the SUCs who are here with us, headed by the President of PASOK, Dr. Ronquillo. Good afternoon, sir. So I'll start off with questions in relation to the SUCs, Mr. President, and this was discussed during the hearing conducted by the good sponsor. And Section 4 of Republic Act number 10931, or the Universal Access to Quality Tertiary Education Act, provides a clear method for computing the funding requirement of FHE. And let me read Section 4. Free higher education in SUC and LUC, provided finally that the amount required to implement the free tuition and other school fees in SUCs and LUCs shall be determined by the respective governing boards of SUCs and LUCs based on the projected number of enrollees for each academic year, which shall be the primary factor in computing the annual proposed budget of SUCs and, in the case of LUCs, the CHED for this purpose. This shall in turn serve as the baseline during the preparation of the annual expenditure program by the Department of Budget and Management. Then, in Section 4 clearly states that the primary factor in computing the funding requirement for FHE is the projection of the number of enrollees. However, the DBM uses actual FHE billing 2 years ago in determining the funding level for the succeeding year under the National Expenditure Program. So if the funding year is fiscal year 2025, which is next year, they use the actual billing for 2023, 2 years behind. This method employed by the DBM is contrary to Section 4 RA 10931. This practice resulted in actual deficiencies of about 3 billion pesos in 2022 and 6.4 billion pesos in 2023. It is expected to result in future deficiencies. The projected deficiency for this year is about 2.3 billion pesos and 3 billion next year. These deficiencies show that national government has not been paying the true cost of FHE. So, Mr. President, Madam Sponsor, I would like to ask the good sponsor about her opinion on this divergence of interpretation between the DBM and also the free higher education law, because the free higher education law clearly states that what the DBM should use is the projection so that the budget will be accurate and use that projection as the baseline for budgeting, which is the NEP. However, the DBM created their own budgetary method, in which they use the actual enrollment 2 years behind. So obviously, it did not factor in projection. And that's where we are right now, no? And that's why we're experiencing this deficiency year in and year out, because what DBM is using are enrollment figures 2 years behind and not factoring the growth of the enrollment 2 years ahead. So I would like to ask the opinion of the good sponsor if this observation is indeed accurate, and is there a way to remedy the method of the DBM so that we will not incur deficiencies year in and year out?
Yes, Mr. President, the gentleman's observations are accurate. There is a big difference between what is provided by law and what is the current practice as determined by DBM. But moving forward, we are informed by the chairman of CHED that there is an ongoing TWG to address this. I would just like to add my own observations on the matter. Definitely, I share the observation made, and it is not consistent with the practice is not consistent with what is written in the law. But I do believe that that projection should also take into consideration the carrying capacity, because I think it is also our job, and when I say our, us policymakers and then those implementing the law, to ensure that the schools have the best, are in the best position to deliver quality education. Time and again in briefings, even briefings this committee has had, and then also discussions in EDCOM, our concern is the quality. And if we just look at the number of students who want to enroll, that's why I included it in my opening statement that we are now at 47% of the school, of the higher education aged population, 47% of them are actually enrolling. Then we should really be increasing the funding for higher education. This includes facilities, this include the MOOE, including the investments in the teaching staff, including the non-teaching, because they're the ones who are keeping the environment, the entire environment proper, in the right, I mean, in up to standard, digital, moving up digitally. So there's a lot that has to happen if we want to be able to absorb this increasing number of students who want to enroll, but we also want to ensure quality. Off the record, I discussed with our colleagues my serious concern about the amount of subsidies we're able to provide. So I can delve in that later if His Honor or other colleagues are interested in that discussion. But I am very worried about the quality of education if we cannot provide the kind of support that will be needed by the SUCs to absorb the increasing number of students who want to go to college.
Thank you for the answers, good sponsor, and thank you for enlightening us that the departments, particularly CHED and DBM, shares the same interpretation that moving forward, the intention or what is stated in the law, which is to use the projection, will be used, and the acknowledgement there comes in the form of that TWG that will be formed. No? And I would like to ask the good sponsor, what is the timetable of that TWG, and is the intention of the TWG to really enforce the true intention of the law, which is to use the projected number of enrollees? And I'll go to the carrying capacity after that, Madam Sponsor.
They intend to finalize that by January.
Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Sponsor. And we'll just await for updates from the CHED on that TWG. But it's a good step forward because I remember attending several budget hearings, several hearings that were conducted by the former chairperson of the Committee on Higher Education. It was chaired by our Senate President, Chis Escudero. I remember clearly that this deficiency would always come out. No? It will become, it's always a sticking point. And in fact, he offered himself to bridge between the DBM and the SUCs on how to find a solution moving forward. But I think personally, I think the TWG is a good step forward. And using the projected number, which is the realistic number to date and for next year, will be the proper formula. I'll go to the carrying capacity, and this has been discussed during the budget deliberations of the SUCs and CHED. And I mentioned during the budget hearing, the good thing is we have a lot of college-age students who are now interested going to school because of free higher education. And we also saw this very encouraging phenomenon in which the last decile, second to the last decile, and the third decile are growing, meaning the poorest of the poor are now, the poorest of the poor are now enabled to go to college. They have the opportunity to get a college diploma. And that's a good phenomenon. On the downside is the carrying capacity, no? Because a lot of students now are encouraged to go to school, to go to college. However, we all know that our SUCs are now facing severe deficiencies in terms of facilities, not only classrooms, but laboratories, even gymnasium, even access to teachers and professors. And that was also discussed during the budget hearing. May I ask the good sponsor, what are the SUCs doing in order to address the carrying capacity issue? Meron bang anong capital outlay sa SUCs today? Ang insertion ba natin is for these two? 2 and 3. For next year lang. Ito po, sir. Yung 3 billion. Okay.
Nasagot. Mr. President, so the question is, how are the SUCs coping with this increased carrying capacity? So one of the main solution is conducting general classes online, which I hastily reminded the President that I am not a fan of. And I actually am going to make a statement and will also ask the President SUC President, to PASOK President to respond. When they are offering the courses online, is this made very clear to the parents that they are now receiving an education that is partly delivered online instead of face-to-face? Alam ba yan? Kasi, Chairman Popo, you will recall a few years ago, this representation was very firm about, and the chair supported it, that there's nothing wrong with conducting classes online, but it must be made clear that this, if X amount of classes are conducted online, you have to make that statement very clear, because it is a great vehicle to obtaining a degree for those who cannot attend face-to-face. But if you can attend face-to-face, I feel it's a disservice to not be able to get that. So I just wanted to be clear if that is made very, if I want to be certain that that is clear to the parents and that they are following the guidelines of CHED on providing online. On that note, so you can give me a clear answer, because I don't want just a nod. I really want to hear, but what is the policy here? I want to share this information with our colleagues that for some, despite the demand, they did not increase their enrollment. So I actually have to say I'm proud of that, because we really need to be firm about maintaining the quality of education, the well-being also of the teachers, of the professors, na kayanan nilang turuan yung mga estudyante na. So I have here a list of the increase of enrollment per SUC. Some are as low as 1%, so negligible. Some are 3%, 12%, 7%, but there are some that are as high as, and I will ask them to answer us, how they, because that is a question of His Honor, 52% increase in enrollment. And then meron din 44% increase. And the top notcher is, are you ready for this? 129% increase.
Wow.
So nagdoble. So,
That's, which
President
school is
Tirso,
that?
may
Which sponsor?
I would like to excuse President Tirso so he can consult with the three that I mentioned and ask how are they coping, because I think we should know.
I think on the good side, Madam Sponsor, it's good because students are interested in studying. But I join the good sponsor in preserving and maintaining quality, because we don't want just to promote diploma mills
Exactly. Exactly.
in that regard, Mr. President. Well, Mr.
And
President.
just to add, CHED has a TWG also to study the carrying capacity. I'd also like to get more information that maybe we can just ask the chairman to submit to us. Because it'll be interesting to know, like, if you say, 10% increase is not a burden, then okay, then we can say that, okay, 10% increase is not. But 10% increase for the next 3 years straight is
Yes,
30 plus percent. So, parang kailangan clear talaga yung standards natin for that. President Tirso, I'll wait for that answer. Serious ako dyan. Thank you.
Well, Mr. President, system-wide, our average increase is about 8%, system-wide, but of course, it varies from location to location. But typically, I'm sure the good sponsor knows this and will agree.
Pero ang hirap naman kasi sabihin nun na may 1% tapos may 126%. Ang hirap naman i-average nun, di ba?
Yeah, Mr. President. Well, Mr. President, going to the online, typically online, the way I understand it, you offer online to students who are currently employed or who cannot do full-time studies, Mr. President. It's a course designed for students who are working, Mr. President, but not the online should not be designed because we don't have classrooms, Mr. President. No? So it skews the objective, Mr. President.
And I hope all our SUCs are taking note of that, Chairman Popoy, na yun nga may purpose yun eh.
Yes,
Nagtatrabaho ka. I don't know if there's anything else. Or meron like I know there are incidents where a student is disabled, napakahirap naman mag full-time. Okay,
Correct, Mr.
maraming incidents na bagay naman yung online. Anyway, Chairman Popoy just gave me this, that CHED only allows 25% online per course per semester. So that means if you have 4 subjects. So my question is, and I'll just share it with the body, so isang tanong, isang sagot. Does that mean that one subject in a semester, if you have 4 subjects, one subject can be taught purely online, or does it mean per subject? Okay, per subject. So per subject, 25% can be online. In other words, if you had if it's a MWF class, like 3 units, so that's 12 sessions in a month, then 3 of those classes can be online. Personally, and I always have a disclaimer, I'm not the expert, but personally, as a previous student, as a mother of students, medyo okay naman sa akin yun. I think that's fair, no? Because then 75% of the class is with the face-to-face. Kasi during the pandemic, what bothered me was that there were some subjects, because of the teacher per se, totally online yung subject na yon. So sabi ko, ang hirap naman nun na, you get the face-to-face value for some, and then the others, 100 or 80% of that subject is online. So I'm glad that and we're strict about this. Okay.
Yeah. Mr. President, it's good that the Commission acknowledged the carrying capacity bottleneck that we are experiencing right now. And again, that's manifested through the TWG that they created. And we'll request from the Commission the results of that carrying capacity study. And moving forward, we saw in the budget that the Senate added 3 billion on top of the 9 billion capital outlay for the SUCs, Mr. President. And I thank the good sponsor for adding 3 billion. So what I'm driving at, Mr. President, is there is capital outlay of about 12 billion, but through that carrying capacity study, we might rationalize the capital outlay to areas or to SUCs that really need it the most. For example, if you are growing at 129%, obviously, you need more school buildings, you need more gyms, you need more laboratories, as opposed to areas where it only has 1% growth. So that carrying capacity study is very important to rationalize also how we distribute capital outlay in order to address carrying capacity. And on top of that, Madam Sponsor, at the proper time, we will also submit our amendment to include in the budgets of the different SUCs in total about 3 billion pesos to address the deficiency, Mr. President. So we will recommend to